Alright pilots, welcome back to the channel. It's Nix here with another one of my beginner's guides. Today we're going to move on to the A-10a model. Everybody's favorite ground striking airplane. It's pretty easy to fly, it's pretty easy to utilize the systems in the A model. This is pre the sensor suite upgrade, but it's still highly effective weapons platform. So let's get right into it. For starters, let's get our keybinds underway for flying this aircraft. And in this video, we're just going to go through the flight model, takeoff, landing, taxi. We're not going to get into weapon systems till the next video. This will just get you into the seat, get you flying, get you comfortable with it. So first of all, we're going to want our power switch, which will be under systems. You're going to want to have that bound. Then you'll want to bind your two engines, the engine start and stop. And you've got two turbofans on the back of the A-10, so you want both of those bound. You'll want your flaps up and down. Of course, if you have a hostess, you'll go into your axis commands and you will get your pitch and roll on your stick, and you will get your throttle. And with the A-10, it does have two separate engines, so you can, if you have a throttle to do it, you can split the throttles. Although you're not going to split the throttles very much for maneuverability with an A-10, you might have to kill one of the engines if one of the engines gets hit and you're going to shut it off to try to get a mid-air restart back out of it. And of course I put my zoom on a slider as well for my vision. If you do not have a hostess, you can come here into the flight controls and you'll just want your aircraft bank left, right, up, down for your pitches and your rudders. And then you'll want a trim hat. So if you have a hostess, that's where you'll put your trim hat, is on your trim hat. And if you don't have a hostess, then you'll just want four keys on your keyboard to where you can trim your aircraft. And trimming is just for if you're on level flight and you drop a bomb off your left wing and not your right wing, it's going to make you kind of fly out of balance. So that's where you're going to want to trim the aircraft back up for level flight, so you're not holding the stick the whole time in a certain direction, because that's not a way you want to fly. So that's what trim is for. And as you're accelerating or decelerating in 3D space, your airspeed and your altitude will also change how you'll have to trim the aircraft. Because if you're going faster, then your surfaces are going to give you either much more pull or push, and cause your nose to go up or down, or your stabilizers to flex a little bit. So we've got our start, we've got our engines, we've got our flaps, we've got our stick and throttle. You're also going to want to have your brakes. So you come into here in the systems, you got wheel brakes on. That's a good important one. When you land, you're going to want to be able to slow your aircraft down. And when you're taxiing, you're going to want to be able to slow your aircraft down. But to be honest, that is all the actual keybinds you need just to fly the A-10. This is the A model. This is a Flaming Cliffs 3 aircraft, so it's not completely full fidelity. So just being able to turn it on, have flaps, and use your control surfaces, and you're good to go. So now that we have those keybinds, now we've got our hog painted up and ready to go. We can jump into the cockpit here, and it's really simple to start an A model, of course. So we turn our power on. We see it come to life. And if you wanted to get into your keybinds, you can change your HUD color to whatever you feel fit that floats your fancy. And then you can either start one engine at a time, or what I do on the A model is I just go ahead and click both of my starts at the same time and let the aircraft start each one up in 10, and one after the other. It'll do it all by itself, so we'll just hit both those and let off. The other keybind I forgot about that you'll want is, you want to make sure, and it should be under systems, you'll want a canopy open and close. So mine's just, I reach over to the keyboard, I hit C to open and close my canopy. Because when you start starting an aircraft, it's going to get real loud real quick. So let's go ahead and C and bring down the canopy. Alright, now we can hear ourselves think. And we'll just look down here and we can see our APU, which is down here. And that's what forces, the APU's got its own generator, and it starts itself up and spins, and that forces air into the engine so that you can start them up without having to connect ground power and ground air to your jet to start it. In the old days, they had mobile stations that had electricity and then air pumps to force air into the turbines of an engine to get it going. In the modern planes, we've got APUs that do that for us. You see now, our left engine is spinning up. You can see the turbofan is getting a move. It's going to level off here at around close to 60% RPMs, which is right where it's at. That's where it should be. So now the second engine should take over the APU here in just a moment, and we'll see it start coming to life. Here we go. Here comes the oil pressure. Now there is a chance sometimes on the A model, I don't think it will unless you have some kind of a failure, or you maybe toggle it too much back and forth or something, but you can get hung up. And if a A-10 engine is going to hang up, it's going to be usually around 30 to 35%, and it'll hang up. And that means it's either the fuel pump got clogged up or it flooded. In the A model, you're not going to have to worry about that so much, but when you move on to the full fidelity A-10C2, Thunderbolt 2, that will be an issue if you don't get your startup correct. You could accidentally flood it out, in which case you'd have to kill the engine, let it cool off a bit, and then try again. But alright, both of our engines are up. Canopy is closed. We're all looking good there. Now let's look down here to our lower left and you'll see flaps. Now there are 3 positions for flaps on an A-10. So let's click down to down and you see the flaps just move down. Now this is the half flap position. This is what you're going to use for takeoff. Or if you need half flaps. If you need to maneuver, slow down, something of that nature, you need a little extra lift, you're going slow, half flaps is where you want to go. Then you can click it down again, and then that's going to go down to full flaps, and that's where your flaps will be for landings. So let's go back up 1. We're at half flaps. We're good for takeoff. Alright, and we are good to go. Let's go ahead and bring up our AWACS map and see where we are. We're at Katusi Airport. We got a long taxi here. We're going to hang a right. We're going to come right down here, come around, and we're going to get right on this runway. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put our foot on the brake a little bit, and we're going to increase our throttle just a little bit. The A-10 doesn't take much. I've already stopped. I'm barely giving any throttle. And it's already rolling. I could actually go all the way back to full idle, and we're just going to kind of roll. You're going to use your rudder. Either you've got buttons or you've got rudder pedals, and that is also your nose wheel steering. You don't have to turn on your nose wheel steering in the A-10A model, so you just use your rudder controls to steer the A-10 when you're on the taxiway. So it's extremely easy to taxi an A-10. It doesn't take much throttle to get it moving, which can be an issue. Some jets are kind of heavy, they're kind of bulky, and you've really got to lay on the, like uncomfortably lay on the throttle to get them moving, and then quickly go back a bit on the throttle once they finally start moving. The A-10, it really takes almost nothing. Right here, we'll just give it that much gas right there. You can hear it idle up just barely, 10%, and that's enough to keep you going. You probably have to back it off pretty quickly if you get too much speed going, because you don't want to overspeed in the taxiways. Other players might get mad at you. The ATC might get mad at you. We'll go back to idle, and we'll just coast. And what we're going to do is we're going to take off. We're going to go through the takeoff while we're doing it. Pretty simple stuff. And we're going to do a circuit around the airfield here. And then we're going to come around on a downwind. And then we're going to turn in for a final. And then we're going to go through the landing procedure of the A-10. And that's going to conclude this video for you. And that'll give you something to get started with the A-10 on getting up in the air, getting the feel for the flight model, takeoffs and landings, which is usually where most people have the biggest issue, especially if they're nervous, is takeoffs and landings. Usually landings, and I'll tell you right now, the A-10 is not hard to land at all. It generates a large amount of lift. It doesn't have a ton of thrust, but that just means you're not going to be climbing, really steeply or continuously with the A-10. You have to plan your ascensions. But as for landings, you generate so much lift that if it's even mildly windy, I've landed the A-10 doing 98 to 100 knots. And for reference, most normal jets are going to come in anywhere between 170 and 150 knots, depending on conditions and weight. So you can really fly the A-10 extremely slow. Alright, so we're going to line up on the runway here. It's a very simple procedure. It's not overly complicated. You're going to just use your rudders to stay as straight as you can on the runway, and you're going to generate good lift at about 150 knots, almost no matter what your loadout is. If you're extremely heavy, it might take a little bit longer to get up, but roughly around 150 you're going to generate lift. Alright, so we got our ATC. He's told us we're good to go, so all we're going to do is we got our foot on the brakes. We're going to go ahead and throttle up a little bit, get the engine spooled up a little bit. There we up 80. Now we're at 90. Now we're going to stop it right there. We're at 90, and now when we put it all the way in at 100, we're going to let off the brake at the same time. We're just going to hold the rudders and stay on the runway straight. At 150 or a little before 150, we're going to start slowly putting pressure on the back stick, pulling back ever so slowly. You don't have to yank it, and you don't have to pull all the way back. Just slowly, gradually pulling back, and the nose will come right on up, and then you just kind of level off on a good 5-degree climb. So here we go. Full throttle, brakes off. We're just going to maintain as straight as we can down the runway. On really windy days, that can be somewhat difficult, but it shouldn't be too bad. And once you're full throttle in an A-10, for the most part, that's where it's going to stay. It's like flying a helicopter almost. Alright, we're at 130, 140, I'm pulling back slowly, 150, here comes the nose. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm not pulling back anymore, I'm just holding it steady. I'm going to bring my gear in, which that's another key bind, your landing gear. Make sure to bind your landing gear. And now let's go ahead and bring the flaps all the way up to the full position. And we're just going to kind of maintain this 5-degree climb. We're a little high on the climb. But that's because as we're gaining speed, the nose is going to want to come up. And that's where your trim will come into play. So right now my hand's off the stick and I'm trimming forward to try to get level flight. And there we go. That's pretty level flight. My hand's completely off the stick still. Now we're going to go ahead and bank left. And while we're banking left, we're also going to pull back on the stick just a little bit to maintain level flight on that 5-degree angle. We're not using any rudder to fly right now. We're just going at a bank angle and then pulling back to maintain the 5-degree nose up. So once you're in the air, you're not going to use your rudders to fly very much in an A-10, except for maybe when you're shooting weaponry, you might have to use the rudder every now and then, depending on the wind conditions. And when you're landing, you might use the rudder a little bit. Once you're on the ground, you're definitely going to use your rudder pedals, but for the most part, it's a straightforward flight model. You can mainly just use your stick to fly the A-10. Alright, so now we are parallel to the runway we just took off from. And you can see we're doing about 280 knots, and that's actually pretty fast for an A-10. We're completely bare right now, so we're called clean, and that's why we're able to generate so much speed so quickly. But you can see, let's go ahead and ascend a little bit. You notice we're only 15 degrees nose up, and we're already just losing our airspeed fairly quickly, and that's something you'll have to get used to with the A-10. It's not a climber. You can climb with it, but you're not going to shoot up 15, 20 degrees and maintain it for very long. You can swoop back up after a dive while shooting your weaponry, but it has definite limits to how far it can ascend before you're going to run out of airspeed. Alright, so here we go. We're just going to bank over. Now we're maintaining level flight. We're no longer, we're high enough altitude now. We're at 5,300 feet there, so we're just going to pull our flight vector, which is what this little dot is right here. That's where your aircraft is going to be. That's where you're heading. That's your flight vector. We're going to keep it level with the horizon. So now we're not ascending or descending. Airspeed's on the left there. You can see we're doing 297 knots. Just doing a nice little circuit. We're getting ready to fly right over the top of the airfield. And this flight model is fairly easy. So you can invert in an A-10, so we can roll over on top. When you invert, that means you're upside down. But the fuel pumps in an A-10 will not operate when you're inverted very long. So if you do invert, don't maintain it, which you shouldn't have to anyway. The only time you're going to invert in an A-10 is when you're doing a maneuver, like going defensive or you're rolling into a dive to drop your ordnance. But you do not maintain inverted flight in an A-10. You will stall the engine. So we can invert, we can hold it here for a second, but we don't want to hold it very long. Alright, let's bank back around, and you can see I'm still just banking left and I'm giving it a little bit of back pressure just to hold the horizon. If I want to turn harder, I can crank over a little bit more and I can pull back a little harder. And I'm just doing it and maintaining that horizon line. If you pull too hard, you're going to get above the horizon line. If you don't pull hard enough, you'll get below it. So to gauge how tight you're turning, you can just roll farther and then pull hard enough to keep that horizon line level, and that's a coordinated turn. And of course you can pull even harder, you just have to watch your stall. If you bank really hard in A-10, the stall meter will start beeping at you if you're going a little too overboard. Which you can hear right there. And now I'm losing some control of my flight surfaces because I'm pulling way too hard. Alright, where are we now? Okay. So let's just come back around. And we're going to get lined up and we're going to pretend we're going down the right downwind here. And we're descending down a little bit because we were pretty high. We don't need to start our final at 5,000 feet. We'll come down here a little ways. So right now we're on the downwind. We're fairly close to the airfield, but you can just gauge it how is most comfortable for you. Right now I'm a little close. I don't need to be this close for the actual landing pattern, but we're not worried about landing patterns right now. We're just going to get her on the ground. So we're just going to extend out. Now normally you can start braking in for your landing turn once you clear the runway when your wing is back here and it clears it, but we're going to extend a little bit farther and just make it a little bit more comfortable for ourselves. And we're doing 327 knots, so we are going very fast. One of the other keybinds you might want to have is your air brake. So when you extend the air brake in an A-10, it puts these flaps up right here. And as you slow down, they'll open up even more. So once you turn it on, you can just leave it on, and then when you're done, you can turn it off and they'll come back in. And we'll probably use those for our landing here, just to make it an easy, controlled landing. So, now we're in idle on the throttle, and we're going to go ahead and come back around, spotting our runway. We don't want to lose too much altitude on this turn. It's better to be a little high than way too low. Now we're down to 240 knots. There's our runway right there. We'll wait till about 190 or so, 180 knots to bring our gear out. We're going to go ahead and bring out our air brakes. Alright, 190, let's go ahead and drop the gear. Let's go ahead and flick our flaps down once, so we're at half flap. And when you're landing, it's all about that control vector, that nice little dot on the front that you're using to see where you're going. That's also going to be your landing. So let's get lined up to the runway here. We're giving it a little bit of gas. Let's go ahead and bring the flaps down to full. You'll notice our flight vector bumps up even more. That's because we're generating so much more lift now. So here, you just want to get your flight vector on your runway. And if you look up on the top left there, you see that donut, that circle on that little grid on the left-hand side beneath my meter there. So if I give it too much gas, you'll notice the arrows will pop up over it. That means you're going too fast. Now if you go too slow, the arrows will appear down below that circle. Now, what it's basically telling us is, I'm sorry, the arrows are on above it, that's what you need to speed up, I'm sorry. But that's just telling us what our AOA is. So we know when that circle is up, that means we are pulled back on the stick enough, and our nose is up enough that we have correct AOA for landing. Then we're just going to keep our vector on where we want to land. See? And when we get close to the runway, we're just going to pull back a little bit more and let off the gas. So let off the gas, pull back a little bit more, set it down nice and easy. Piece of cake. Now there's a little bit more to doing on-speed landings, but in the A model, just to get started, you just want to slow down. Don't worry about how fast you're actually going. As long as you get the circle here and your flight vector is on the runway where you want to be, then you are at the correct speed to land there. When you say you're on speed, it has nothing to do with how fast you're moving forward. On speed is maintaining that you are on the correct speed and flight path and AOA angle of the aircraft to land. Generally speaking. If you're coming in real steep, you might set up on speed, but you don't know that you're actually pretty far out of glide slope because of how high up you are. Like you might have your flight vector on the runway where you want to land, and your AOA might be proper, but you're extremely steep in on your glide slope. And that'll be something you'll pick up as you get going. But for now, turn into your runway, get lined up, slow down, get all set up for landing, get your flaps out, get your gear down, and then get your flight vector, which remember, that is this little dude right here. Get it on the runway where you want to land, and then adjust your speed and the pitch of your nose to get that circle. And then you just fly it right up to the runway. A little bit of flare and a little less throttle near the end. Don't yank back on the stick, just a little extra to slow down your descent a little bit right before you touch down, and you are set. It is that simple. Welcome to flying the Warthawg. I hope to see you all in the skies. Our next video is going to be on weapons deployments. Everybody have a good day.